Okay, guys, welcome to this week's Fife Property Update. We're going to be talking about the property market in Fife for the last week it's just passed, from the 29th of May to yesterday, the 4th of June. Okay, so why do we talk about this? Well, it's to actually analyse the market and see where we are, because there's a lot of talk out there about some property market crash. Again, if you'd seen a couple of weeks ago my vlog on that, the Fife property market crash in general, you'd understand where we are right now. So this is to give everybody an update about where the property market is just now. I got asked a question today. So how do you look into this? And I go, well, I base everything on facts rather than everybody's opinion. It's really the facts that will count, and then forecasting from there. And then forecasting can be a bit of opinion, but you can forecast better on the facts rather than you can just on a general opinion, a consensus. And look where the information's coming from every single week and every single day. Okay, so the Fife property market, let's look at how many properties were actually listed throughout all the estate agents in Fife last week. Then we're going to look at how many properties are actually sold in that area by area. And then we're also going to look at the month of May in its entirety. And I'll give you a good idea of where the market is just now. Okay, is there an undersupply? Is there oversupply? We're also going to be talking about coming soon. So I'm going to be talking about coming soon. So hold on for that. And then as well, towards the end, I'll be talking about the wealth creation show and sensitivity analysis and what that means to you. So that will be tomorrow, 12:30 at Monday, wealth creation show. But let's talk about what's on the market just now, what's just gone on. Okay, so area by area, we can see right here. In the Cooper area, 7 properties come to market, 5 properties sold in the last week. East Neuk, 4 came to market, 2 sold. St Andrews, now, here's a typical example of how manipulation of statistics. East Neuk, 4 properties came to market and 2 properties sold. Okay, so I could just not mention these numbers and say only 50% of the properties listed in the East Neuk area actually sold last week. That sounds a lot more negative, doesn't it? But it's not really, because it's a small amount in the scope of things. But it just depends how people use that information and how they say that information, and that's how the media manipulates you. Anyway, okay, so St Andrews, 6 came to market, 4 properties sold. Leavenmouth, a lot actually came to market on Leavenmouth last week, which was about 19 properties, and 9 actually sold. And you could be thinking, wait a minute, has the Leavenmouth market peaked? Is there a problem there? Well, let's look at the month before in its entirety, and I'll show you why that is a wee bit different. Swings and roundabouts, really. So Dunfermline, 54 came to market, 44 sold. Glenorchy, 12 came to market, 8 sold. Glenorchy is usually outperforming every single time, but at some point in time, they're going to have to come to the market, because you can only be over demand all the time to the point that there's no stock left in Glenorchy. So that means that people will have to come onto the market or nothing will be sold. So this is what's happening here. Kirkcaldy, 15 came onto market, 17 actually sold. So you can see there as well, 117 overall in the week, and 89 actually went under offer and sold in the same week. This is an interesting fact, though. When you look at the monthly figures, so let's just jump into the monthly figures and have a look at them for last month. And it's quite revealing. Okay, so typically, look, for example, Cooper, 44 properties came on in May, 35 properties sold, so only 8% of the properties actually sold within that same period. East Neuk, 27 came onto market, 19 actually sold, so only 70% came on. Now, you can see here there's a pattern now of a lot of properties actually coming on, and that's borne out when you look at down the bottom. 631 came onto the market in May. But what happened as well, typically it's usually about 520. So there's about 100 more actually came on. But if you look at your number sold, it's typically it's around about 500. So 66 sold more, 100. So you're only a net amount of probably around about 40 properties actually on the market more than before. So if you're sitting at 500, you'd probably be at 540 now from the previous month overall in the whole Fife property market. And what I mean by 500, so if there was 500 properties overall up for sale at any one point in time, this would actually bear out, and it would be around about 34, 65. So it would go up by 65. because that's the difference between the 631 and the 566. So if you were 500 at the start of the month, you'd go up by that amount, and then you would probably expect about 560 by the end of the month. But overall, this actually looks quite good. And there's the Leavenmouth one. See where I said just there now at Leavenmouth, and that one, how 19 came on and 9 were actually sold. Well, last month actually 37 came on and 45 were sold. So 122% of demand there. So there's nothing to be concerned about, I would say. I think it's just business as usual. Kirkcaldy 158 versus 159, so even Stevens with them as well. But overall, 90% of demand, and it's not unusual at this time of year for properties to come onto the market in quite a large quantity, purely for the fact that it's the right time of year. People are convinced that now that the flowers are out and the grass is green and the sun is shining, this is the time to sell their house. So it's typical. It's a typical cycle that happens with the actual market itself. So it's a typical cycle. It's built into what we do and how we do it. However, I've got to say, at any point in time, you could still put your house on the market. You don't need to wait till certain seasons, because the seasonal thing was only really driven in the first place by supply and demand, because the internet wasn't available at that time. So it was really when we were going down into Christmas, the internet was never available. So when everybody closed at Christmas for the holidays, then you didn't have access to any more information. So typically a lot of people wouldn't put their house on the market at that Christmas period. When it came to holidays, for example, as well, the fair fortnights. So it straddled 2 sets of weeks, the Glasgow Fair and the Edinburgh Fair. And typically, if you didn't have the internet, most estate agents would actually closed for the Glasgow Fair and the Edinburgh Fair. So that's why everybody stopped kind of looking for property at that point in time as well, because the people that were selling the property were no longer available. And this cycle has actually been there all the time, this up and down cycle. But because the internet came along, it smoothed it out quite a lot. And actually, as well, you can sell a house at any time of year. I mean, I keep saying it before. I've sold a house on Christmas Day to prove that point, Boxing Day to prove that point, New Year's Eve to prove that point, and this year, actually, New Year's Day, I sold a house on New Year's Day to prove that point. So it doesn't matter what time of year it is, you can always sell a house. It's the internet. It now helps you with that. So you don't need to wait for mass properties going into market. This is a classic example about supply and demand. So what happens here is, if you've got more properties going onto market at this point in time, you're competing against a lot more properties. Therefore, your price point might actually be more reflective of the home report value, rather than actually be possibly significantly over the home report value, because you've got an oversupply in this situation. And let's have a look at that, actually. Let's just quickly jump onto the Zoopla website. So I'm going to jump onto the Zoopla website and see where we are in terms of numbers. Just let me see if I can get that up. Here's Zoopla there. Hopefully you can see that okay. So there's Zoopla's website. Now, typically we're sitting around about 500 to 550 as usual. So if we have an oversupply, so there's more properties than there was in the last year, I would say, you'd probably be expecting it to hit about 600 or 650. Now, pre-pandemic, it was sitting at 1,200. And that was before the pandemic. That was just before. 1,200 properties up for sale at any one point in time. So we've got a long way to go to get back to that. But let's have a look at, see where they are now. And you could take this every single week yourself, actually, and each time. So that's right across the Fife market. See what's up for sale, available for sale at this point in time. And there you go, 559. There's about 560 properties available. There's 170,000 households in Fife, and there's only 560 properties up for sale. There's 370,000 people in Fife. All, at some point in time, they will make a decision. But generally in Fife, 20 people every single day make a decision to buy and sell a property. Now, how do we know that? Then I'll jump back to here and I'll show you why. So we'll jump back to this one, and I'll tell you. So if you look at that classic example there, if you've got 631 in the month, and then you jump back to the week, you've got 117. That's round about 120. So if you're sitting at 120 and you've got 7 days in the week, you're probably sitting just under the 20 properties a day. You're probably sitting about the 18 or 15 to 18 mark in terms of it. Excuse me, I don't have a calculator on me. So you're probably sitting about that every single day, and that's how you know how many properties and how many people make a decision to buy and sell a house in that time. If you look at this one example, 631 in the month of May, you've got 31 days in the month. So if you 20 properties a day come onto the market, 20 times 30 is 600. So that tells you straight away 20 properties every single day are coming onto the market and 20 properties are getting sold, because that's round about the 550 to 570 level, which is near enough 600. So it's horses for courses, and it's 6.5 dozen at this point in time. What's coming on is actually getting sold. So we've still got a complete restriction in supply itself. So that should give you a good indication about where we are. Any questions, guys, please feel free to ask, or you've got any comments on that, please feel free to comment as well. Happy to, chip in. I don't, if you don't want me to show your comment on the screen, it's all right. I'll just read it at the side, and then I'll maybe talk about it as well. I did that the other day with Sean, because he was looking for a mortgage and looking for doing a let to buy. So I did that with Sean yesterday. Okay, so let's jump on to what we've sold and what's coming soon. Now, we talk about what's sold, and the reason I talk about sold every single week is because the reason I talk about sold every single week is to give you an idea of what we've actually sold and gone under offer, and what price point it was at. Because if you've got a similar type of property, it's possible that you're thinking, wait a minute, that sold for that price. That will give me a strong indication about where the value of my house is, because my house is kind of similar to theirs. So that's why I talk about that. But what I talk about coming soon as well is the ones that we've signed up. I tell you about them now, roughly where they are. Well, I tell you the street actually, in the actual location, the town. And I'll tell you what type of property it is as well. I can't tell you price point just now, because obviously we've still do the home report. But I can tell you it's that type of property, where it is, and what street it is. And that way, if it's a property you actually think, yep, that could be the one for me, you need to get your ducks in a row, and this gives you a perfect opportunity to do that. Okay, let's crack on. Yeah. Here we go. I'll just pop onto that screen. Okay, so this one, Links Road in Leven. This was actually a 5-bedroom detached house beside the sea and the golf courses just along the road. If anybody knows Links Road in Leven, this was listed at offers over 360,000. This property. So this has been sold, and it was sold in 6 weeks. So it gives you a good indication. Now, what we found as well is, just so everybody knows this, at the top end of the market is fine, but Zoopla, and I've been reading reports from Zoopla as well, they think the number of days to sell is actually just extending a wee bit more now, because obviously people are kind of getting nervous. I'm just reading the report right here. Buyer demand range. Zoopla says buyer demand remains high, but there are now signs that the market is softening, and price growth is set to slow. They think they expect between about 3% price growth by the end of 2022. I'll tell you why I think Fife might be a bit more, and I'll tell you in a minute. Okay, so let's pop into that. Hopefully I'll remember. I'm supposed to tell you that. St Monans, this was Narrow Wind in St Monans. That sold in 2 months, a 5-bed townhouse. And it could actually be subdivided into 2 apartments if it's possible. This was listed at offers over 300,000, so this was a good property here. It is right here. Actually, I should have put it on the screen. I just noticed the other now. So this was sold in 2 months. This is a 5-bedroom townhouse. Offers over 300,000. This could have been subdivided into 2 properties, because there's an entrance from the rear, there's an entrance from the downstairs as well, and then that garden goes with it as well. So that gives you a good indication about what these are going for. And 38 Hill Terrace in Markinch, that was sold in 3 weeks. That was a 3-bedroom semi-detached house, and that was offered for 165,000. So that gives you a good indication about what is available for sale. Okay, guys, coming soon. Let's talk about coming soon. Oh, let me talk about this price. Why I think the Fife property market will go up a bit more than 3% this year. Now, the average salary in the UK, you can look it up yourself. Average salary in the UK is round about 31,000. The average salary in Scotland is just under 31,000. The average price for a house in the UK is 355,000, which is round about 31,355, round about 11 times the multiplier. So in other words, you've got 11 times the average salary to afford the average price of a house in the UK. Now, Scotland, the average house price, I think it's round about 260,000. So Scotland is round about 30,000, for example. So when you divide 30,000 into 260, you're getting round about just over 8 times the multiplier. So 11 times UK, 8 times Scotland. Now, they're predicting increases of round about 3% overall in the UK, but that's because the multiplier is quite high. In Fife, the average house price is round about 180,000, just under. The average salary in Fife is 30,000. So the multiplier is only 6 times the average salary in Fife, which still makes Fife an extremely affordable place to live, because you've got the same salary, almost same salary level, and yet you've almost got half the price of the house to get the same thing. Think about that: 350, 360,000, 180,000. It's half the price, the average in Fife, to buy a property, and yet you're almost on the same salary as the rest of the UK on average. So it makes it far more affordable. So the multiplier, so there's still a lot of leeway to go in house prices as in Fife as they continue to climb. So I think, yeah, okay, UK wide it might be 3%, but I still think Fife is going to realign and catch up a lot more as a result of that, because people have actually, it's no longer a case that you need to live in one location now, like London or Edinburgh or Glasgow, to actually work at your work anymore, because the pandemic has actually demonstrated to everybody that you can work remotely from home. So why on earth would you be living in a 2-bedroom flat in Merchant City for £450,000 if you could have any one of these properties? Think about that. 2-bedroom flat, Merchant City, 450,000. 5-bedroom detached house beside the sea and the golf courses, 360,000. No much one I would be wanting. And that's why Fife will be more affordable, and I think that's why Fife will continue to climb a lot higher in house prices. There's a restriction in supply as well. We've clearly seen it there. There's about 560 properties up for sale at any one point in time. We've still got a long way to go to get anywhere back to the demand. It was still there before, 2 years ago almost. There was 1,200 properties in the market, and we're only sitting with 560. We've got less than half the stock still. So while it might ease off because of inflationary pressure and people getting nervous, the facts actually demonstrate that Fife is going to be quite a resilient property market to come. We also did yesterday, which was quite an interesting one, about the other day. It was about the 6 reasons why Fife properties could actually inflation-proof your savings. That's actually on here on this link above, below, or side or left, depending on what platform you're looking on. So that was the 6 reasons why Fife properties, Fife rental properties, could inflation-proof your savings. It's a really good article. It is an excellent show. It's a masterclass in property investment, and it's also a great podcast as well. So if you're, driving to your work in the morning, why do you just stick on the podcast and listen to it? Because it could tell you a lot about how to inflation-proof your savings. Well, it will tell you a lot, because it was me that did it. So the other one as well was, we talked about moving mistakes yesterday on yesterday's show, and why finding a home before you have found a buyer is a big, big risk. If you're sitting, I'm going to talk about what's coming soon in a minute. If you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I am going to wait for my property to come up, my dream home to come up first, before I make any attempt to put my property on the market. And if you cannot buy before you can sell, let me explain to you what's going to happen next. And we talked about this in the moving mistakes. The biggest mistake you can make in moving is this, and it's on this article as well. It's on this post. So you can read it, you can listen to the podcast, you can watch the show as well. It is clear here. There's a tier system here, and I'll talk about it in this show. Your ideal buyer. If you put your house on the market, for example, who is going to be your ideal buyer? It's going to be definitely somebody that's going to be in a cash position. They've got the money in the bank, they've got the readies, and they can be flexible enough to agree to any entry date you want. So if you want a 6-month entry date because you want to find your next property, if you want a 12-month entry date, you want to find your next property, they could probably agree to it because they're in rented accommodation just now. If it's their dream home, they're probably happy to wait especially at this point in time, because we've had this all done already. So it's not making this up. We've actually had these results already where we've had 12-month entry dates, concluded missives, £10,000 deposit, non-refundable. So this is entirely possible to do. So what I'm saying to you here is, if your ideal person is you're going to be your cash buyer, that's in tier 1. So tier 2, the one below that, your next ideal buyer is going to be somebody with a mortgage. They're living in rent accommodation, they've got a mortgage in principle, and they've got that in place, and they've got a big deposit to put down as well. And again, they can get an entry date. Tier 3, the next one down from there, is probably somebody that's just sold their house. It is now going to concluded missives. That's your next ideal buyer. As you would say again, next ideal buyer from tier 3 is possibly someone that's just gone on the market. So they put their house on, they're ready to go, and this estate agent, like ourselves, has probably looked at that house and said, yeah, that'll sell okay. We know the number, we know it will sell well, and we're able to convince you that. So that's your next ideal buyer. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then there's your final buyer, probably the one that's at the bottom of the pile, the one that you'll probably never want. And that's, they're not even on the market. They don't even know the value of the house. Start their journey, and a mortgage in place, spoken to anybody. Okay, so here's my question. If you're not in the market right now, why are you expecting a buyer in tier 1, tier 5? That. So attractive are you to the seller for the dream home? And we'll talk about how to resolve that. So please listen, tune in it, podcast, and get more information about it. That's what we do the shows for. We do it to give you as much information as possible so you can make a decision on facts rather than any opinions that you might have. The opinions could be opinions who have no experience of the property market at all, and they don't really know what's going on. They're just listening to all the sound bites that they hear, putting it all together, and it comes well, and it's sometimes, when in actual fact, it's maybe not the facts. Okay, so what's coming soon? Let me talk about that. Station Road, Windy Gates, 2-bedroom apartment. Just signed that one up. That's coming soon. Wade Terrace in Anstruther. That's a 1-bedroom detached bungalow. Yep, I talk about all the time, hen's teeth. A 1-bedroom detached bungalow in Wade Terrace in Anstruther is an excellent property. And I tell you what, most people have actually extended it the rear as well because they wanted a wee bit more space. But this has got a dining kitchen, 1-bedroom, and it's got a drive to the side. And it's also got a garage as well. It's got a huge back garden, which actually has a scope to extend out the back like other people have done as well. So if you're looking for a 2-bed, detached bungalow, it's possible you could buy this one and just extend it to the rear for yourself. Church Road in Leiden, 4-bedroom end terraced period property. It's got many original features in it, so that's coming soon as well. Church Road in Leiden, that's a 4-bedroom end terraced property, and it's really spacious inside. Amazing back garden. It's got 2 garages with it as well, for storage and off-street parking, kayaks and boats and anything you want to store in these garages. And you're literally just 200 or 300 yards away from the beach, round the corner from the golf course, the Leiden Links golf course as well, and you're just a short distance away from the high street. So an ideal location. It's going to be a great property when it comes to market. I've got a funny feeling I'm doing the pre-portal this week as well, so watch out for that one. Now, when I'm talking about these just now, if you think, oh wow, that's it, that interests me, then message us direct if that interests you now, because there's no point in waiting for a pre-portal, because you've got this opportunity, because you've now seen me and you've heard me say this, that you could just jump in and register your information, your details, and say, as soon as you know more information about that, please tell me about it straight away. And that way you're getting way ahead of the crowd. You're getting way ahead of everybody else, because most agents wait for putting everything on the internet. They don't tell anybody beforehand. It just goes on a website, and you're fighting with everybody. So take the opportunity now and actually get in there before everybody else. Upper Dalgate and Cooper, a 3-bedroom semi-detached house is coming soon as well. That should be in this week. And Toll Road in Cellardyke, a 3-bedroom end terraced house. That is going to be coming soon as well. That's come on as well. Okay, guys, just let me round up here where I'm going with this, and I'll just finish off. Wealth Creation Show tomorrow. Tune in for that. Now, I did risk analysis. And last week's wealth creation show and the week before that, I did opportunity cost, I think it was, and opportunity loss. I demonstrated how, buying a car just now at 170,000, a Lamborghini Huracan, would cost you like 700,000 in 10 years' time, and it would cost you 2 million in 40 years' time. And you can watch that. They're on this playlist is here. The playlist is on this post. So if you want to watch these shows or listen to these podcasts, please feel free to do that. I've given you the wealth of my experience over the years I've been investing in property and developing wealth over the last 30 years, and what I've learned from people far more successful than me. I've spent thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds on training from these people. So I'm just passing this on to you as a result, and it's free information. Maybe that's the issue. It's probably because it's free. Everybody thinks it's no worth anything. So please check that out if it's something you really want to do, is develop your wealth in the coming years, and also possibly for people that want to retire. It's a great show as well for that as well. I recently bumped into a lady, and she was saying, look, I'll probably have to keep working for the rest of my life because I can't retire. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. If I look at what you've got just now, and if you downsize just now, you release that money and you buy buy-to-let properties, you could earn £10,000 a year, and that would go right to your bottom line, because your personal allowance is 12.5. So you wouldn't be taxed on that, and you wouldn't have national insurance on it either. So that'd be straight in your pocket. Could that allow you to retire? Absolutely. There you go. Just like that. And a lot of people don't think that's possible, but it entirely is. It's what you don't know what you don't know. That's the key here. But generally, I know most of that anyway, because I've done it myself over all the years. And if I don't know the answer, I know somebody else that does. Just as I did with Sean yesterday. I put him in the direction of a mortgage broker and also a letting agent over in Arbroath, because that's where he is and that's where his property is, to get more information. Okay, so the wealth creation show of tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about sensitivity analysis, and that's on the back of the risk analysis. And what I mean by that is how with the so-called impending recession coming up, and I do say that tongue in cheek, how the media try to play this out, and cost of increase and stuff like that. I'm going to be looking at your investments, and I'm going to look at how you should be. What I do is a sensitivity analysis. So in other words, if interest rates move slightly up, I'll show you how modeling, so financial modeling, it can actually help you know if anything changes, if the answer to your question is, am I putting myself at risk with my investments? And I'll show you how to answer that question. I love predictability and I love certainty. And this is why I formulated all these processes I do over all the years, because I know the answer before I start the journey almost every single time. It's as simple as that, genuinely. I know the answer, and I'll say that again. I always know the answer before I start the journey, every single time. And I minimize the downside every single time. And I do a risk analysis and I do a sensitivity analysis on all my investments every single time. So I'm guaranteed success almost every single time. So tune into the Wealth Creation Show tomorrow. We're going to be running it live, Richard Cook and myself, at 12:30 tomorrow on my public profile, on our YouTube channel, and on my personal profile as well. Okay. And we'll all share it onto the platforms for the office pages as well. So you will be able to get the shared show on there. We'll do that at the same time as we're actually broadcasting from these other profiles. And I suppose you can catch up on the podcast because it goes on there as well and gets posted later on. And that's it, guys. As always, I have my instant valuation tool. Just to finalize this, the instant valuation tool is on here. You can get a quick instant valuation of your property, 30 seconds, that's it. It can give you a rental valuation. It can also give you a actual price valuation, and it gives you 3 different levels. It gives you the top level, which is your property is in first-class condition. It's brand new kitchen, brand new bathroom, all decorated throughout, and it gives you the top end about where that should be in terms of valuation. It gives you the middle point as well, and that is basically the middle point is your property is ready to move in, but you probably want to do the bathroom and the kitchen and decorate while you're going. The bottom valuation is your property probably needs a kitchen and a bathroom and redecorated and carpeted before you move in. So that's the 3 different levels, but it also gives you that for a rental level as well. So if you're a landlord or an investor out there, it gives you a rental valuation. It gives you top end, what if you've got a mint condition property, what you should be expecting. It gives you a midpoint and it gives you a bottom point as well. Now, I must say though, the mid and the rental values, the top, middle, and bottom, are always ensuring that your property is compliant and wind and watertight, and actually complying with the Standard Repairing Act under the legislation for housing. So that's what these do. The amounts themselves only represent how well you finish your property off and where your property is. That's all it really comes down to. And that's it, guys. Thank you very much for joining me on the Wealth Creation Show. And until next time, and tomorrow at 12:30, I'm Jim Parker for Fife Properties TV.